because people confuse sometimes type 1 diabetes with type 2 diabetes. There's a big,
Don't know
like,
the difference. Could you explain that?
oh yeah, yeah. And so, and I love to explain it. And so type 1 is literally your pancreas doesn't work. Like it's used to be called juvenile. Well, they still call it that, juvenile onset diabetes. So you more often than not get it when you're younger, and your pancreas just shuts down and it just doesn't work anymore. So it doesn't secrete insulin. So you literally can't produce insulin. And so my wife, she's had it for 27 years. She's been a type 1 diabetic. And so her pancreas doesn't work. So she literally needs insulin to survive. And that's type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is you bring that on yourself. And, like for the most part, I think, you know what? No, I'm pretty sure that there's no cases that just magically happen for type 2 diabetes, but type 2 diabetes is usually associated with being overweight, eating crappy food, all these kind of things, because you're getting so much, you're overworking your pancreas. And over time, it just craps out because you have overworked it for so long. It's think about it like oil change in a car, right? If you don't change your oil after a while, eventually you'll burn off its ability to circulate through the engine, and the engine will lock up. And so it's like that with a pancreas. If you're overworking your pancreas all the time by giving it high sugar foods, high carbohydrate foods, the typical American diet, you're going to end up making your pancreas not as efficient, not work. And so then type 2 diabetes comes in, because it's a pancreas issue where it's not secreting as much insulin as your body needs. But more often than not, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, no, you can't. They haven't. I think if you have enough money, you can cure type 1 diabetes, but it's, without going down that rabbit trail, my wife is more valuable to the pharmaceutical companies while she has diabetes than if they were to cure it. So whatever. So there's no official cure for type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, let's go there. Let's go, man. That's what I want to hear. Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth. It's so screwed up. But anyway, so like
pandemic. Go ahead.
So the type 2 diabetes is the, speak during the pandemic, like it was, people always said that diabetes was a risk factor, but it was type 2 diabetes that was the risk factor. And people don't differentiate between the two, because my wife is a perfectly healthy person. Like she's in great shape. She works out all the time. She takes care of herself. She can eat whatever she wants. It's just her pancreas just doesn't work. Whereas someone with type 2 diabetes, odds are they're overweight. They don't eat right. They don't take care of themselves. And when they then switch and start taking care of themselves, they lose the weight, then their pancreas starts working again. They don't overclock their pancreas. And so now they can reverse type 2 diabetes and no longer have it. And so there's a very clear differentiator in that scenario. You can reverse one, the other one, the type 1, you can't. Type 2, you can reverse it. And if you just live a healthier lifestyle, more often than not, you can cure your type 2 diabetes. And so, to your point, that is an obstacle for my wife to overcome all the time, because when she goes to the gym, her sugar could go low, her sugar could go high. So she has to preemptively prepare for that obstacle. She has to have insulin with her if for some reason her sugar goes high. For anyone who has type 1 diabetes, they know that more often than not, your sugar goes low when you work out, or maybe it'll kind of be a little high while you're working out and then crash after the workout. So you got to have some type of sugar / carbohydrate to keep that sugar level up. So that's an obstacle that she has to overcome. But what's nice is with either type 1 or type 2, it's all based on sugar and carbohydrates, and your body secretes the insulin to counter those. When you bring in carbohydrates and sugar to your body, you need insulin to counter that so your body can process it. That's how your body works. So for my wife, because she eats healthy, she doesn't eat as many carbohydrates. So she doesn't need to use as much insulin to counter that. So same thing with someone with type 2 diabetes. If you don't eat as much carbohydrates and sugar, you're not going to have to need as much insulin produced by your pancreas. And so you can overcome that obstacle by reducing your diet and not consuming as much sugar and carbohydrates so that you don't need as much insulin on the backside.
I was just thinking to myself that it's so funny they say that diabetes is the comorbidity, but the obesity and the lifestyle is the real
Yeah.
comorbidity
Yeah.
with that. And with your wife, it type 1 diabetes people, and I've known a few of them, and I never asked the difference, but they are people that are hyper accountable, hyper vigilant about their health. It's almost like they have no choice but to work out and eat right and be healthy, which is almost good because you're not given the choice.
Yeah.
But on the side note, with the pancreas not working, could that lead to other issues like pancreatic cancer or anything? Since your pancreas is literally doing nothing,
Sure.
could there be anything that could happen in the future with? Because that's pretty scary. If your pancreas isn't working, that's a pretty important part, pretty
Sure.
important organ in your body. And
Sure.
pancreatic cancer is one of the ones that are kind of like the worst that you can ever
Sure.
get. I mean, it's pretty scary.
Sure. I don't know that there's an increased risk for that. To be honest, I don't know. And I don't want to speak out of school for me. I know that there are risks associated with type 1 diabetes where, in the past, people sometimes the blood circulation in it isn't as good. So then your limbs, your fingers and legs and stuff just don't get as good circulation. So then things are more complicated there. We'll have to ask my wife. She knows all the ins and outs of type 1 diabetes, but to me, and she's lived with it for 27 years. I've only known her for 12 and a half years. And so I've learned a lot in that time. But what I've kind of surmised is type 1 diabetes years ago had a lot more risks than it does now. And because you can control it so much better than what you could in the past, because insulin's more available, there's cooler things to control it. I mean, we're turning this into a type 1 diabetes episode, but it's really, really cool thing for the things that they can do for people. My wife used to have shots all the time. Then she had a pump that was attached to her. And then she would have to prick her finger every time to check her blood sugars, all these kind of things. Now she wears a thing called a Dexcom, which is a sensor that she puts on. It lasts for 10 days and it's a continuous glucose monitor. So like everybody, like in the fitness world, people are excited about like the NutriSense Bio and they wear the thing on the back of their arm and it checks their blood sugar for them. My wife has one of those all the time. And so it constantly tells her on her phone what her blood sugar is. I get a notification if her blood sugar starts to go low. I mean, it's kind of cool, it's, besides the fact that it's a disease that you have, like it's kind of a cool thing what they've been able to do with it. So to answer your question, as far as the potential negative side effects or possibility for issues in the future, yeah, there's definitely some, but they're definitely mitigated because of the better control and the fact that you're a healthier person overall definitely mitigates a lot of those risks as well.
Well, the sugar is the main thing that people surmise or sometimes guess could feed the cancers too. So if
Sure.
you're a diabetic that's taking care of yourself, like you just said, your carbs, your sugar, and obviously high fructose corn syrup, all the GMOs, and
Sure.
you're very hyper vigilant. So the type 2 diabetes people, and we'll cap it off with this, should really, in a way, not have any excuses to have type 2 diabetes. If, like you said, it's not genetic, it's not hereditary, it's not anything outside of lifestyle and habit that have caused you to go down that type 2 road.
Yeah, unfortunately there, and unfortunately, yes, type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease. It just is. And there may be, I'm not the 100% expert on type 2 diabetes, so go ahead and blast me if you want, but like,
Exception to every rule, whether it's type
sure.
1, type 2, or any
Right.
of the other things we're talking about.
Right. So there are exceptions, but for the most part, type 2 diabetes is 100% a lifestyle disease and reversible. And if you just fix your lifestyle, you can fix the type 2 diabetes and it's not as bad as people make it out to be, because, you know, a lot of times the heavy people, older people will get it, because just over time there can be, you don't necessarily have to be super heavy to have type 2 diabetes. You could just eat a crappy lifestyle or eat a crappy diet your whole life and never take care of yourself and develop type 2 diabetes later in life. But it's reversible by lifestyle choices, fitness choices, nutrition choices. You can absolutely, again, outliers in every situation, but you can absolutely reverse type 2 diabetes for sure.